I'm really excited about this podcast media, uh, this unique media that you guys have going for this audio for in media res. I'm curious, how did you become a part of this series?
I had originally been reached out to by the Good Story Guild about a role in a different project, and I had a conflict. And so they hit me up about this project, yeah, that they were working on called In Media Res. And they had a sort of a deck, but I was sort of immediately floored at their concept. I just thought it was really, really, really interesting. The idea behind the show is it's about this guy who's like an unknown actor working on a food truck who gets cast to be essentially like the new like American James Bond. And then he has like 1 week to undergo PR training. And it was such like a really interesting, contained story that I wanted to be a part of. But I had no idea, yeah, like that people made things like this. Like I went and explored kind of all the sort of like audio dramas that were out there, and I was like really impressed by like the level of production value and all that. I had always sort of known a podcast that's just, two people sitting around kind of, shooting the shit, but turns out they're making kind of entire shows. And yeah, it was remarkable to be a part of, and scripts started rolling in, and I just found myself more and more engrossed at every turn.
And you get to work with Nicole Kang on this and John Ailes. Were you all recording simultaneously so you could sort of facially bounce things off of each other? Or is this something that you each individually recorded on your own?
We had 1 week, and I was in the room with everybody.
Uh,
My character is about in every scene. There's a few scenes that I'm not in, but so I sort of sat and watched everybody, which I did really, really appreciate insofar as kind of the process goes, because like I knew who to picture, like I was able to like look people in the eye while we were acting, yeah, and I yeah, like I think like the show has, I think, a really, really, quippy, dialogue-driven sort of cadence to it, and that really helped because, like we were able to establish tempo together.
yeah, and that's very unique because often when you're doing voice acting, you're there by yourself, maybe in your pajamas with a glass of water or tea or something, and you're just trying to act off of things you're hearing while watching things play out maybe on screen as well.
Totally, totally. Yeah, and I think it also like for something like this in which we're all just playing like real deal people, like I think like this felt very necessary. Like if I was playing it like like a cartoon cat, I feel like I probably could have done it like, alone in a booth by myself. But yeah, it really helped to really get a good understanding of, yeah, who the other players were.
There's such drama and intensity to this. Was it hard for you all to shake off a long day of filming, or because you all are there sort of in person playing off of each other, you get a little giggle here or there?
Yeah, it's interesting. My character Xander in the show has a little bit of a panic thing, a panic attack sort of problem, and so there was such a need that I had to kind of shake it off at the end of the day, we knew what the big scenes were, but I think what was nice was I wasn't always 100% sure when they were coming, because they were cycling actors in and out, and we didn't always record perfectly in sequence. So I think like every once in a while, like I'd be like, oh, like this is the moment for the show that I have to go for it. And yeah, I think I'm no stranger to really, really, really going for the high emotional stuff, which is funny because I came up in comedy. But I think like in this case in particular, there were some very high mountains to climb. So yeah, driving home was kind of like shaking out my hands because
Sure.
the thing too is that like I'm a not to get like whatever crafty or heady about it, but I'm like a Meisner actor, so my whole thing is just tricking my body into thinking that the thing that's happening is happening, and so my body just doesn't quite understand driving home that we didn't just confront our dad or whatever like. my body's like, wow, big day. And I'm like, we were just in a booth, like it's
I know
good.
it's still that your mind just thinks the adrenaline rush is like real and your heart is still racing because you put so much of your body and your mind into these moments. So I have to ask then, is there a particular scene you're most proud of the work you put into?
That's a great question, and I do know the answer, but I feel like I feel like I maybe not shouldn't say it. Like I like if
You
someone's
want
gonna
people
listen
to
to this,
tune in and listen
I
to feel
it
that moment.
yeah, in the last episode, I have like my character has a phone call to sort of like, I think, like get closure on something. I haven't heard this yet, but I remember in the booth being like really, really, really feeling like it was there, and yeah, and I think yeah, I'm also just like I'm really proud of the most recent episode that they released is the episode in which my character starts to get PR trained. And I just love that episode so much because
You're like close to
I
home.
think yes, yes. Well, and that's the one thing that drew me to the project is I was like, wow, all this happened to me, at one point or another. I went through PR training, a few times and all that. And I think like I think a lot of people who like live out in the world and live like normal lives that aren't, like obsessed with entertainment don't know how these stories are constructed. And I think as like an outsider looking in, it's really interesting. And it's interesting at this like sort of like super studio level, a thing that I have never never witnessed.
It's just so fascinating, the whole thing through and through. And I think we talked about how it is that adrenaline rush. Is that what you think people, or is that what people have been reaching out to tell you who have started listening to the series to tell you that it is a fascinating look, maybe a James Bond modern retelling if like James Bond was in, having to go through PR training to get himself, he's more of in public figure than that, than, what is
Totally. Totally. I think, like I mean, like actors, like the amount of work that you have to go through in order to present a polished exterior, is enormous. It's a humongous amount of, curation, and there's a lot of intelligent minds behind it, I've been on a few red carpets in my day. It feels like being shot at, because like there's 30 people and they're all shooting pictures and whatever they get, they're putting online. And gotta look not awkward, you gotta, and like, it really does change a little bit like your relationship to your kind of physical body. You're like, how do I present in a way that people are into that is good for the everybody is good for the team who made the product is good for the shareholders whoever and so I think like that is definitely what
But
I get
also,
the
you have to
most
give good sound bites for the
totally.
media so that people still tune in or watch or follow your career and stuff like that. You have to be like 100% careful all the time to make sure every single person you have responsibilities to gets what they need.
Totally. And you need to have, I think also like people do need to see that you're real. Like people do need to see that you're like a real person. So you really got to ride that line behind like the sort of the authentic, right you and also, what is, good for the interview, good for the company, good for the whatever, what is good what people will see in you that they'll like you and want to continue to, watch you. And so I think, yeah, I think that has definitely been when people reach out to me about the show, they're like, wow, like I never knew any of this was happening.
What's been next for you? Have you been busy working on any on camera projects or doing any writing lately?
Yeah, both. Yeah, lots of both. Yeah, so I make a show and that show comes out every couple years and I just do it, with a bunch of, film professional friends and we sort of have constructed a little group that makes its own TV show essentially. And so I show run and I star in that and that show's called Rabbit. And there's 6 episodes out. There's 5 more coming this year. So just sort of getting that bad boy through post has been a lot of my life. And then outside of that, yeah, mainly stand-up comedy. I have a few more books to put out over the course of the next few years. And once I figure out what those are about, I'm gonna write them.
All right, I'll stay tuned then to see what's next. What would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the work you do, whether as a writer or even on camera? It's just fascinating to get to see you shine in all these different facets.
Totally. I mean, to anyone who enjoys my work, I just want to say thanks for sticking around. I really, really appreciate it. I think like the stuff that I work on, my kind of, quote unquote projects, they mean a great deal to me. And people who like them, I kind of feel like we are sort of a little bit like glimpsing each other. If they see themselves in it, then they're seeing themselves in me. And so there is this kind of, like unity that we share. And some people watch my stuff or see my, whatever, my movies or read my books, and they say like, yeah, this is really not for me. I don't get it. And that's a fine reaction to have as well. But to anybody who does get it and is with it, I just want to say like, yeah, it's great to have you along, and I'm grateful to share this kind of, oneness with you.
This mindset, we have a
Yes, yes,
symbiotic mindset together.
the hive mind that we've created.